So today we'll talk about an important system of the body, which is the endocrine system. Endocrine system is a control system of the body. You know that two systems control the other systems, nervous system and the endocrine system. So it is one of those two control systems. Endocrine system works through the endocrine glands. So in your body at different locations you have the endocrine glands, and endocrine glands secrete what? Hormones. Okay, so endocrine glands secrete hormones, and those hormones work on the body parts. So first we'll talk about the properties of endocrine system, then we'll see the location of important endocrine glands in your body, then we'll talk about the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Hypothalamus is a part of your brain, you know that, and it controls the pituitary secretion. Pituitary gland is called what? Master gland, right? But pituitary has a boss. Who is that? Hypothalamus. Okay, so pituitary is the master gland, so it controls other endocrine glands of the body, but pituitary is controlled by the hypothalamus of the brain. So we'll see how hypothalamus regulates pituitary gland or controls the pituitary gland. Then we'll talk about pituitary hormones. Pituitary gland has two parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior pituitary produces 6 hormones and posterior pituitary secretes 2 hormones. So we'll see what are those hormones, and then we'll talk about the regulation of secretion of hormones and other endocrine glands of the body. So first, the properties of endocrine gland. If you see an endocrine gland, this is the gland, okay, endocrine gland. These are the cells that secrete the hormone, and you have capillaries. So these are the blood capillaries, okay, inside the gland. We know blood capillaries are everywhere. Okay, so what happens? These cells secrete the hormone. So hormone molecules are secreted by these cells, and then the hormone molecules enter into the capillary blood. Okay, so first the hormone is secreted in between the cells, that means in the interstitial spaces, that means in between the cells, and then from the interstitial spaces the hormone molecules enter into the capillary blood. Okay, so from there into the capillary blood. Okay, and then once the hormone enters into the blood, blood circulates throughout the body, so the hormone will go to the site of action, taken to the site of action by the blood. Make sense? Blood carries it to the site of action. Okay, so that is the endocrine. In case of exocrine, what happens? This is the gland, exocrine gland, and these are the cells that secrete gland, you have tube-like structures called the ducts. So many tube-like structures called the ducts, like this. So these are the ducts, and the hormone around the duct, you have the cells like this. So what happens, from the cell, the hormone is directly secreted into the duct, not in the interstitial space. So from the cells, hormone is secreted into those tubes or ducts. So these are the ducts, okay? And the duct takes the hormone just to the outside of the gland and releases there, okay? So you see the difference between the endocrine and exocrine. Let me now go over review. You help me. So in case of endocrine, the hormone is secreted into the interstitial space first, right? That means in between the cells, the spaces in between the cells. And from there, hormone enters into the capillary blood. Make sense? And blood takes it out and takes it to the site of action. Make sense? Where it will work. So no duct is present. So in case of endocrine, no duct. That's why we say ductless. Ductless gland. Endocrine is ductless gland, right? In case of exocrine, you have ducts, right? Those tubes inside. So has ducts. And the chemical hormone is secreted directly into the duct, directly from the cell to the duct. And now you tell me, let's go back here. Since endocrine hormone enters into the blood, right, the action could be generalized because blood goes everywhere. You know that, right? So action could be in many locations. Make sense? So action is widespread. That is called generalized action. Widespread action. In case of exocrine, duct ends just outside of the gland. The tube just goes to the outside and ends there. So the hormone is released just outside of the gland and acts locally, just around the gland. Make sense? Because the duct just gets out from the gland and ends there. So hormone is secreted there and acts just around the gland. So localized action. In case of endocrine, since blood transports the hormone, the site of action could be far away from the gland because blood can take it from the brain to the toe, right? From your any gland to the distant organ. So action could be far. Action could be far away. Far away. In case of exocrine, since the secretion occurs just outside of the gland, it is localized action. Okay? Okay? And near the gland. Okay? Make sense? So if I ask you, write down few differences between the exocrine and endocrine, you will mention this. Is it clear? And if I ask you only, tell me the properties of endocrine, these are the properties of endocrine secretion. And these are the properties of exocrine. Now today, we'll talk about the endocrine system. We are talking about the endocrine. That means those glands secrete the hormones into the blood. Important endocrine glands of your body are if you start from the head and go downwards, inside the brain, you have the pituitary and pineal. You already know that, right? You have, did you see pineal gland? Do you remember it? When you dissected the brain, tiny gland, pineal gland, and pituitary. Both start with P. They are located in the brain. Pituitary is called the master gland. You already know that because it controls the other endocrine glands of the body. That's why it is the boss. Pineal gland is mainly responsible for circadian rhythm, sleep awakeness cycle. And pineal gland also secrete a hormone that is called melatonin. So pineal gland has two important functions. One is circadian rhythms and another is secretion of melatonin, which is related to sleep. Thyroid gland, if you go down, thyroid gland is located here. Look at me, the lower part of the neck, okay? And thyroid gland is mainly responsible for metabolic activities. Thyroid gland is mainly responsible for metabolic activities. Another function of thyroid is lowering calcium, decreasing calcium in the blood. So those two functions, metabolic activities and lowering calcium in the blood. Then parathyroid glands. You have small glands attached to the back of the thyroid gland and they are 4 to 8 in number. The number is not fixed. So if this is thyroid, in the back of the thyroid, posterior surface of thyroid, you have tiny glands, 4 to 8 in number. These are called parathyroid. And parathyroid glands increase the calcium in the blood. So thyroid decreases or lowers and parathyroid increases or elevates the calcium in the blood. So now you can tell by the action of these two, right? Your blood calcium is controlled or regulated. Make sense? One is lowering, another is increasing. So when your blood calcium will go down, parathyroid will be released, right? To increase it. If it goes up, you have to lower it, right? So thyroid hormone will lower it. So these two glands regulate the calcium. Pancreas. Inside the pancreas, you have both exocrine and endocrine glands. That means you have exocrine part and endocrine part. Since we are talking about the endocrine system, the endocrine part of the pancreas is called pancreatic islets. So, pancreatic islets are the endocrine parts of the pancreas. And you already know pancreas has two very important functions. One is what? Say loud. Exactly. So by producing insulin and glucagon, it regulates what? Insulin regulates what? Blood sugar, right? So blood sugar regulation, number one. Pancreas also produces pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice. And that helps in digestion. So let me say again, pancreas has two functions. Production or secretion of insulin and glucagon, another chemical, another hormone. Okay? Insulin lowers the blood sugar, we know that. Glucagon increases the blood sugar, and that's how the pancreas regulates the blood sugar. And that is the function of the pancreatic islets, endocrine part of pancreas. Exocrine part of pancreas produces pancreatic juice that helps in digestion. Okay? So endocrine part regulates the blood sugar, and exocrine part produces pancreatic juice that helps in digestion. Adrenal glands sitting on the kidneys. So you have two adrenal glands. They sit on the kidneys, and adrenal gland, just for now, know that is considered as 4 glands in one. That means adrenal gland has 4 structures inside it, and each works as a gland. So that's why we say 4 glands in one gland. Make sense? It has 4 parts, act as like 4 different glands. Okay, we'll talk about that. Just know that. Gonads. If you go further down, in male, testes are gonads. In female, ovaries are gonads. So 2 male gonads are testes, 2 female gonads are ovaries. Gonads produce sex hormones. In case of male, testosterone. In case of female, estrogen, progesterone. Right? So those are the sex hormones. So here in this picture, you can see the location of those glands. So pituitary and pineal in the brain, then thyroid in the lower part of the neck, and behind the thyroid you have tiny glands. Those are parathyroid glands. Okay, 4 to 8 in number. Then another gland that I didn't mention, which is the thymus. Thymus is located in the upper part of thorax here, and thymus is responsible, write it down, for immunity. Thymus is responsible for defensive functions or immunity. Okay? Thymus is interesting how in very early stage of life, if you see the thymus of an infant, you'll see like this. The thymus occupies whole upper part of the thorax, so big, okay, in infants. Then gradually thymus shrinks, gets smaller, okay, and becomes like this in adults. And in old age, the thymus is replaced by adipose tissue or fat. So it becomes a like piece of adipose tissue or fat. Why? Because in early stage of life, in infants, the immune system is not yet developed. Make sense? It grows slowly, right, in your body, the immune system. So you need more activity of thymus. That's why thymus is big, okay? As your immune system develops in the body, grows in the body, the function of thymus is less, right? Gradually less and less. So thymus shrinks. And as I have mentioned, pancreas, which is a mixed gland, which has both endocrine and exocrine parts. Endocrine part is for the pancreatic islets, and that produces insulin and glucagon to regulate the blood sugar. On the kidneys, you have the adrenal glands. Adrenal glands are also called suprarenal glands. Suprarenal. Why? Because supra means above, renal means kidney, sitting on the kidney. Okay? So adrenal or suprarenal gland. Then you have gonads in male body, testes in female body, ovaries. Okay? Now, I have mentioned at the very beginning today that pituitary is the master gland, but pituitary also has a boss. Who is that? Hypothalamus, right? The brain structure called hypothalamus. So how hypothalamus talks to the pituitary gland? So if you see, this is the hypothalamus and pituitary is just under the hypothalamus. So this is the hypothalamus and this is the pituitary. Okay. Now, pituitary gland has two parts. If this is the front, this is the back, this is called anterior lobe and this is the posterior lobe. Posterior lobe. Anterior lobe secretes 6 hormones and posterior lobe secretes 2 hormones. Anterior lobe is also called adenohypophysis. You must remember, I mentioned many times, hypophysis is another name of pituitary, right? Remember hypophyseal fossa in the skull? Remember that? Where pituitary gland sits. So hypophysis is another name of pituitary. So anterior pituitary is also called adeno. Remember, it starts with A, so anterior adenohypophysis. Posterior pituitary is also called neurohypophysis because this structure, posterior pituitary, is a neural structure. Many neuron-like cells are here. Okay? And in the anterior pituitary, these cells are gland-like cells. Adeno means gland. You know, the adeno is gland. So these cells are gland-like cells. These are neuron-like cells. So adenohypophysis, neurohypophysis. Now, how the hypothalamus controls the anterior and posterior pituitary. So these are the neurons in the hypothalamus. Okay, these are the neurons. Okay. Now, what happens? These neurons secrete the chemicals. Those are called releasing factors. Releasing factors that will go to the pituitary to release the hormones. So, releasing factors come from the hypothalamus to the pituitary. So, now first let's see the anterior pituitary. How releasing factors go from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary. Let's talk about that first. Hypothalamus is connected to the anterior pituitary by a blood vessel that is called portal vessel. What's the name of this portal vessel? Hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessel. Although it is long but easy, just think that. Another name of pituitary is what? Hypophysis, right? And that is, here is hypothalamus and here is pituitary, hypophysis. Make sense? Hypothalamo-hypophyseal. So you just join those two. So this portal vessel is called hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal vessel. Okay. What happens? You see, these hypothalamic neurons secrete the releasing factors, and that factors enter into the blood here and taken to the anterior pituitary. So releasing factor is now here, and that will tell the anterior pituitary to release the hormones. Okay. That's how hypothalamus sends signal to the anterior pituitary via that blood vessel, portal vessel. How the hypothalamus sends signal to the posterior pituitary? from these neurons, long axons. You know that axons arise from the neurons. So these long axons of these neurons go to the posterior pituitary, and the bundle of the axons is called what? Tract. So this is a tract. You already know tract. Make sense? Tract, bundle of fibers or axons. So a tract or bundle of axons take signal, send signal from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary, and this tract is called hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So from the axon terminal, the releasing factors are released here, and that will tell the posterior pituitary to release the hormone. Okay. So these two hormones are released from the posterior pituitary, and 6 hormones are released from the anterior pituitary. You need to know the name of those hormones, pituitary hormones. Okay. So 6 anterior pituitary hormones are growth hormone or GH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Its name is giving you an idea. Thyroid stimulating hormone. This hormone is released from the anterior pituitary and works on which gland? Thyroid gland, right? And stimulate the thyroid gland. Is it clear? That's why it is called thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH. Now next one, adrenocorticotropic hormone will work on which gland? Everybody. Adrenal gland. Make sense? That's why it is called adrenal. Now, adrenal gland, you remember I showed you the picture that adrenal gland is sitting on what? Adrenal gland is sitting on the kidney like this, right? So adrenal gland has outer part that is called the cortex, and inner part is called the medulla. Now, on which part adrenocorticotropic hormone works? Its name is telling you, right? Adrenocortico. That means what? Cortex. So, adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACTH comes from anterior pituitary and works on the adrenal cortex, outer part of the adrenal gland. Follicle stimulating hormone helps in the growth of the follicles in the gonads. You can write it down. Follicle, its name is telling you follicle stimulating hormones. Now where the follicles are located? Inside the gonads, in ovaries and testes. So growth of the follicles is the function. Inside the follicles, just for you to know, you have the sex cells, ovum and sperm. So follicle stimulating hormone works on the gonads, and luteinizing hormone, it also works on the gonad and helps in ovulation, causes ovulation, release of the ovum or egg from the ovary. You know that is ovulation, the release of the ovum or egg. Important function. Prolactin. Prolactin works on female mammary gland or breast and help in the production of milk. Now you tell me, when prolactin secretion increases? Exactly. Okay. So when the women are pregnant and after the birth of the baby, during that time prolactin secretion should be very high, right? Because production of milk is the function. Okay, so those are 6 anterior pituitary hormones. Posterior pituitary hormones, how many? 2, right? Are those oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone or ADH. Oxytocin and ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Oxytocin, very important. Oxytocin has two very important functions. One is uterine contraction of the uterus, very strong uterine contraction. When you need that? During birth, during childbirth, right? Uterine contraction is needed, right? It happens, you know that. So oxytocin is released and causes contraction of the uterus to help in childbirth. Make sense? Number two, ejection of milk from mammary gland or female breast. Production is prolactin, but after production it must be ejected, right? Get out. So that ejection is helped by the oxytocin. Okay, helped by oxytocin. Is it clear? Production is helped by what? Prolactin, and ejection is helped by oxytocin. Okay. Antidiuretic hormone, ADH. Anti. The word anti means what? Against, right? Against. Anti. Antidiuretic. Now you tell me, have you heard the word diuretic? Anybody? Diuretic? No? Diuretics? No? Didn't hear? We often read in the newspaper or magazine, diuretics. Diuretics could be food or medicine that causes what? Urination. That causes production of urine. Is it clear? Diuretics produce urine. Antidiuretic hormone will do what? Produce more urine or less? Less. Antidiuretic. Diuretic produces urine. Antidiuretic hormone stops that. Is it clear? So, decreases production of urine. Do you know any food that causes is diuretic? Any drink that causes more urine production? Coffee does it, right? We know that. Caffeine. So, food could be diuretic, and medicine, we know Lasix and other medicines that also helps to produce more urine. Okay, so let's talk about the growth hormone, which is an anterior pituitary hormone, right? Among those 6. Growth hormone helps in what? Growth of the body, right? That's why it is called growth hormone. You know, growth hormone is used heavily in what? Biotechnology, right? You know that? To make the animals big very fast, right? To get more meat, right? To make the fish big, quick, and to grow the vegetables or fruits. So growth hormone helps in the growth. Now, in human body, growth hormone works on almost all the tissues, almost everywhere. Growth hormone works almost everywhere, but in 2 organs, the action is more. Which 2 organs? The skeletal muscles and the bones. Okay, we know those 2 organs mainly help to grow the body, right? Your body mainly grows by the growth of the muscles, growth of the bones. Make sense? So those 2 organs are more sensitive to growth hormone. Okay? Action is pretty quick and prominent on those 2 organs. but growth hormone works on other tissues too. Okay? It works on smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, fat, adipose tissue, or other structures. Now, growth hormone stimulates the synthesis of protein and elevates the glucose in the blood. And that is a problem, if someone's growth hormone secretion is more than normal during the growth of the body. When your body grows, right? Like from birth to puberty, during that time, body grows, right? So, if during the growth of the body, that means in your childhood, growth hormone secretion is more than normal, then what will happen? The bones will grow fast, right? Muscles will grow fast, and the person will get what? Giant, big. And that is called giantism or gigantism. Have you heard that? So, the person is much bigger than average people. So, that is called giantism, also called gigantism. Due to increased secretion of growth hormone, right? Increased secretion of growth hormone. When? I said. Before puberty or after puberty? Before puberty. You have to remember that, okay? Because during that time, body grows. You remember ossification, hyaline cartilage becomes bone, right? And growth plate, you remember? Once the growth is completed, the formation of bone is completed, then it will not grow anymore, even if you give more growth hormone. Make sense? Because fusion is already done, right? Ossification is completed. So during ossification, if you do that, then it will grow faster and bigger. Okay, so that is gigantism or giantism. Now, you see here, this picture is a very famous picture. When I was a student, like 30 years or more ago, in my textbook, I had this picture. This is a person from East St. Louis. This picture is very famous, a giant person. So this is the average normal person, and this is a giantism or gigantism person. Okay, so you see that the growth is so big. Now, there is a problem of giantism people or gigant people. What is that problem? You see, growth hormone increases the blood sugar. Okay, growth hormone increases or elevates the blood sugar. And if someone's blood sugar is always very high, that will eventually destroy the pancreas, okay? The cells that secretes insulin. So that person will become diabetic. And we see almost all cases, giantism people are diabetic. Make sense? Because their blood sugar is always high, pancreas works always more, right, to lower it, and eventually pancreas burns out. Okay, so that causes diabetes, and diabetes is a disease that can affect other organs, right? And also, growth hormone, as I mentioned, works on other cells of the body, other tissues of the body, right? So the person's heart is big, lung is big, liver is big, okay? Big organ is not good. Small is not good, big is not good. You need what? Normal size, right? For normal function. Make sense? So, the dilated heart and other complications we see in giantism person. Now, if the growth hormone secretion suddenly increases after puberty, then what will happen? The bone fusion is already done. So after puberty, if growth hormone secretion increases, then what we see that some bones, particularly the facial bones, finger bones, those bones don't grow in length but grow in width, sideways. Okay? And that's why you will see the fingers are thick, big fingers, thick fingers, facial bones are thick, so sometimes the mandible pushed forward, protruded mandible. So we see facial bones are thick and wide, finger bones are thick and wide, protruded mandible. Sometimes the tongue becomes thick because tongue tissue is sensitive, is still sensitive. So that condition is called acromegaly. So if growth hormone secretion was normal during puberty, during childhood, but suddenly growth hormone secretion increases after puberty in adults, then we see those symptoms. And that is called acromegaly. If growth hormone secretion is less than normal during the growth of the body, the person will not grow normal. Will not grow normal, right? Will stay small. And that is called what? Dwarfism. Dwarfism. So opposite of gigantism, right? So now you know normal amount of growth hormone secretion is very important for the normal growth of the body during the childhood, right? Normal amount of growth hormone secretion is very important for the normal growth and function of the body. How the endocrine secretion is regulated? Just to know that by negative feedback mechanism. What is that? Hypothalamus sends signal to the pituitary, we know that, right? Pituitary sends signal to the gland, and gland releases the hormones into the blood. We know that. That's the normal process from hypothalamus, pituitary, then other glands secrete hormones into the blood. Now, if the secretion continues at certain point, the amount of hormone in the blood will reach to the threshold, upper limit. So, in that case, what will happen? Inhibitory signal will go to the anterior pituitary and hypothalamus. So, we already, you know that hypothalamus is the boss of the pituitary. This is pituitary, and pituitary releases the hormones, work on different glands. So this is hypothalamus, this is pituitary, other glands. That's how it works, right? Hypothalamus sends signal to the pituitary, pituitary sends signal to the other glands, and other glands release this hormone into the blood. And in the blood, the hormone amount or concentration will gradually go up, and when it will reach to a threshold, upper limit, then what will happen? Inhibition will go to the pituitary and also to the hypothalamus, and will tell them not to release the chemicals anymore or hormones anymore. Stop now. So if this one stops, this one will stop. If this one stops, right, signal will not go to the glands. So secretion will be stopped. So that's why it's called negative feedback mechanism. Okay, now antidiuretic hormone produces less urine, right? I said antidiuretic will produce less, decrease the production of urine. Very simple, decreases the production of urine. Now you tell me, if antidiuretic hormone production stops in your body, then what will happen? The person will produce more or less urine? More urine, makes sense? Because antidiuretic hormone decreases the production, right? Now if antidiuretic hormone is not there, the person will produce more urine. Is it clear? And that can happen because we know that posterior pituitary produces ADH, antidiuretic hormone, if posterior pituitary is destroyed. For example, tumor, right? Destroys the posterior pituitary. In that case, ADH will not be released. So the person will do what? Produce plenty of urine. Is it clear? And that is called diabetes insipidus. It is not diabetes mellitus. It's not related to blood sugar or insulin or pancreas. It is related to posterior pituitary, right? And ADH, volume of urine, not sugar. And this is called diabetes insipidus. Thyroid gland, here located in the lower part of the neck, I mentioned before. If you see the anatomy of the thyroid gland has two lobes like this. Two lobes. These are called lateral lobes. So two lateral lobes are connected by a structure that is called isthmus. Okay, isthmus. So two lateral lobes connected by an isthmus. Now, if you see in